think there's a huge history in rowing, both at our program and the sport in general. All the cups we race for are big ones, and they're all very, very old, going back to the Child's Cup, and then Navy Princeton Cup, Carnegie Cup. They're all almost over 100 years old. Definitely a lot of history in the sport, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of it, even if it's just for a couple of years, but hopefully we make our mark. Early in the week, we typically do a bit more work since we're further out from race day. Obviously, Monday we usually do 2-mile pieces. It's a bit longer and a bit lower cadence, so that lets us, continue with our fitness and develop our power.
So race time for this weekend: 9 a.m. 4B, 9:20 for the 3B, 9:40 for the 2B, 10 a.m. for the varsity. Okay. And it's going to be kind of a quick warm-up, crank out whatever we're going to do, and everybody keep the toxins, especially keeping your ears open for some thunder if we hear it. Get ready to hightail. Okay. Doing it, right? Throw. Good.
And then Tuesday we'll shift to usually shorter pieces, but still doing some work, where we'll do this workout called Gluckers, and basically it's 4 times, 3 times, 20 strokes on it, full power at different cadences, and then you repeat that cycle up and down the lake about 4 or 5 times. So
I think we might get about an hour before the lightning gets here. Okay, so this is going to be short and sweet. Just right away. And again, thinking about hopping the boat along together, guys. Hopping it along together. Very horizontal. That weight's coming up off the seat together. Yeah, scoop it, Will. Good. Picking up the boat, Will. Yep, sit up, not too much reach, Will. Sit up and pop. Still, even more, Will. Yep.
So we a lot of times use the Tuesdays to focus on a race component, whether that be the start, maybe a special move in the middle of the piece to gain on another crew, or the sprint, things that are kind of week to week points of improvement.
Platform, head together. Attention, go! Get it going now! Open. Yeah, sit up now, Will. Sit up and move together, Will.
Well, the start it's a really cool part of rowing, because you're sitting in a boat that weighs 96 kilograms with a bunch of big guys who are 200 plus pounds at a dead stop. And the name of the game is to pick up that boat and get it to top speed as fast as possible. So it starts off very, very heavy, and the idea is to just crank on it, to absolutely go for it, so that we go from no movement at all to top speed as fast as possible.
Pedal! Yes, that's better. That was the first time I've seen in a while when, you really went after it and that came up, okay? And that's what made that blade get a little bit stuck, okay?
they'd be explaining things, 32 or a 20-stroke builder at a 32 going at 130, and you're saying, what do all these numbers mean? But you get more and more familiar with it as it goes along.
I might throw in a couple where we're gonna do like high strokes and shift. Okay, we might do a little of that, kind of like we did before, and maybe a couple with the lift. We'll spin around. We might finish coming home with one set of gluckers. Go ahead and maybe start getting a little bit closer to base and practicing some race execution with the gluckers when we do them. Okay.
Power 10 or something like that, or a high 10, high 20. These are different number of strokes we take at a certain cadence, and depending on where you are in the race, you'll vary these things to get the most out of your race plan and strategy.
With a nice platform together.
Level here. Get it up.
Our team at least, and I think most crew teams in general, race day really starts the night before. We always have a boat meeting and run through some visualizations, predicted weather conditions, different things that we're going to do when we line up against a crew. And then we wake up early, at least 2.5, 3 hours before a race, get up and moving, and then we come down. We'll meet as a boat up campus, walk down as a group, and start stretching out up here. So get on the ergs, do a little dynamic stretching, and then meet one last time usually, and put hands on the boat, and from there on it's game time. We'll typically launch about 40-45 minutes before we're set to take off, and we run through a little bit of drilling, some steady states, and then we'll do maybe 4 or 5 speed pieces just to make sure that everything is lined up and we're all synchronized and moving at the same speed.
You finish your warm-up and you have to pull into the stake boats and sit there and wait for 7-10 minutes. And so that in all that time, you get to think about it, wind yourself up, get the adrenaline going. So the starter gave the command, said attention, go. We locked in and had a pretty good start off the piece. I think we were up 2 seats on Yale and pretty significantly on Cornell, based on my memory. One thing that Yale did very well during the piece was they continued to attack the piece, attack the race, after we came out of our starting sequence and settled into our base rhythm. And I give them credit for that, certainly, that they really attacked at that moment and were able to sort of slip away.
I mean, I think overall we had a decent start. We were right there with them. Our first 300-400 meters were good, and then from there we just let them slip away a little too much.
When another crew gets some momentum, they start to move out. Guys in the stern stop being able to see what's going on. That's when it's most important to work together. And those are the times where some guys can see the crew next to you and some can't, making it almost easiest for things to fall apart.
They took, maybe 1 or 2 seats, and then instead of us reacting like we really should have, they pushed out and ended up making it a length by the 1,000-meter mark. And when you get down that much, you're halfway down the race, and but if you're down a boat length and it's a good crew like Harvard, like Yale, like so many others, it's hard to come back from that. And I think there's good lessons learned from our race on Saturday.
Right in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can say that the Carnegie Cup isn't our final goal. It's definitely a goal and a win we want to take, but it's not the final win that we need. So we're working together, and hopefully we gain some speed by sprints and can bring back a gold medal.
I was talking to them at the dedication, and I said, "So does it feel pretty much the same?" And they were like, they looked past the bridge there out to the lake and said, "Yeah, they felt like they could have been plopped back in their college experience 60 years ago." It's almost unfathomable to me as a 22-year-old to press fast forward to 52 years from now and to think of where I will be. It was very cool to be able to meet them and to know that work has been put in.
The very significant importance of the team in terms of fulfilling the dreams that you have. And obviously those dreams translate into a success in terms of your won-loss record, but more significantly, I think they translate into whether or not you have engaged in a process with a full commitment and given the very best that you have in that process. That in itself is a win.
The history and the legacy of the class of 52, for me, the crew of 52, it's just moving. They were fighters, they were scrappers, they had grit, and those are the things that make great rowers, things that make great crews. It's not just the horsepower and the talent, it's the attitude and the ethic.
And for the Carnegie Cup, for that race against Yale and Cornell even so many years ago, and that we're part of carrying on something for Princeton that they didn't just start, that they were continuing on too.